Hey everyone, I'm your astrologer Brittany with horoscope.com. Here are 3 things you need to know in order to make today, Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, a success. Now let's go ahead and let's hop right into it. In order to get started, what I want to take a look at first is going to be back to an alignment that, yes, we did talk about yesterday because it's still going on and it's going to help me better explain the energy to you. And that's going to be the sun. The sun very recently left the sign of Virgo, where you see it in this chart, and entered the sign of Libra right about here, where it then made a trine over to Uranus in the sign of Gemini, number 1. What is this about? I'm going to interpret this in somewhat of a neutral way because they're both in air signs, which have an affinity. So what is this about? The sun is about the core of our being and our identity. It is in Libra. Libra in some ways is about being a little more calm, balanced, and harmonious, with it being a Venus ruled sign. It's also an air sign about thinking some things through. And it's making a trine to Uranus and Gemini. Trines can indicate things happening very quickly. Uranus is about the sudden and the unexpected. Could be an event, but with both of these in air signs, Gemini and Libra, it feels more like a thought, an idea, news, or a conversation that you may have or receive about your life. I think it's ultimately meant to improve it, because that's what Uranus is really all about. Uranus is about like the future and solutions and to move forward into that. So I think this is really meant to improve your life in some way, shape, or form, or shake you out of your rut to kind of do things differently, but it could just feel a little overwhelming there. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say today, is that we are trying to calm down a little bit compared to the past few days or weeks and be a little more at peace with our lives and think more things through. And that is then leading us to get some sudden unexpected news, ideas, thoughts, and insights about our lives and how to change it for the better, which may feel a little startling or overwhelming. That then leads me to the second thing I want to talk about today, which is going to be where Mars is. Now, this chart again is a few days old. But since this chart, which is for that solar eclipse in Virgo, Mars has left Libra and moved into Scorpio right about here, where it's still making a square to Pluto in Aquarius number 2. Now, this is a little bit of a challenging alignment because it's a square, which is a hard aspect to Pluto, an outer planet, which is hard for us here on Earth to understand. What is the difficulty? Well, I'm going to start with the Mars here in Scorpio. Mars is actually fine in Scorpio. Mars is about action and doing things. It's also about courage. Scorpio as well, to me, can be very courageous, very fearless, about change, transformation, about rising from the ashes. Not only that, but Scorpio to me too can be very action oriented, not afraid to get messy, to take the bull by the horn. Scorpio too, being a water sign, can also be a lot about desire and drive to act. And I think, because I believe that everything in the chart is connected, there's a lot of courage, desire, and drive to act on these unexpected ideas that we've recently gotten, or to adjust our lives as a result of these unexpected ideas, and to take control of these things, to make them better or more in our favor. But again, remember, it's receiving that hard square from Pluto, which is difficult. Pluto can sometimes bring our attention too much in a certain direction, and Aquarius can be a lot about detaching. So there's a part of us with the Mars and Scorpio, because the square indicates things that are at cross purposes. There's a part of us with the Mars and Scorpio that wants to attach more, to do more, to engage more with these unexpected ideas, to take control of them and to get them to where we need to go. But there's another part of us that doesn't want to get our hands dirty, that wants to detach, that just wants to be the detached observer of our situation. Aquarius is also an air sign. There's another part of us that wants to be more in our head, to think more things through about our situation, or that could be too worried about other people. Aquarius can be about friends, what our friend group, social networks are going to think. Not only that, but Pluto too can also bring up fears and insecurities. The Scorpio can a little bit as well, around action too. That could be hard and what make us not act at all because of fear and still feel a little bit stuck. Or if we're not acting, then again, to act at cross purposes, to say we want to act, but then to not follow through with the acting, or to start to act, but then hold back. It can just create a lot of weird things like that. That can also make us feel very frustrated too with the Mars, and angry. Mars can bring anger, especially with Pluto, and especially now that it's out of Libra, a lot of anger at ourselves and maybe even other people who we perceive to be in our way and holding us back, even though I think it's really ourselves that are holding us back. there. So that's the second thing that I want to say is that, yeah, we're trying to calm down a little bit about our lives and think more things through. And that's given us a lot of crazy, unexpected ideas, news, thoughts that are startling and overwhelming. Not only that, but we want to act on these ideas, to take the bull by the horns, to take control of these ideas and to take charge so we can bring them in a better direction. But even though there's a part of us that wants to take charge of these unexpected ideas to make them better, there's another part of us that cross purposes to that doesn't want to engage, or that's scared to engage and would rather just sit back and watch, or that feels like we need to think more things through, or that's worried about what other people are going to think and is afraid of taking said action that is making us feel stuck, not act at all, or act in weird ways, or say we want to act but then not do it or not follow through. That can be frustrating and agitating, make us still feel stuck. That then leads me on to the third and the last thing I want to talk about today, which is going to be where the moon is today, because the moon does move very quickly from day to day, and because of that can sometimes make a very big difference in a daily horoscope from what one day is like to the next. And I think it is today, because those two alignments that I just mentioned, we have talked about yesterday. But this one's they're going to make a big difference. And today the moon is going to be here in Scorpio, right on top of Mars, square Pluto, and then eventually going to make a sextile to Venus in Virgo. So I want to talk about that moon conjunct Mars and square Pluto here in Aquarius conjunct that alignment. Number 3, what is that about? Now, in some ways, this is also a bit frustrating and a bit agitating. A bit frustrating and agitating because the moon doesn't really like to be in the sign of Scorpio. Planets have signs to do and don't like to be in, and just the moon doesn't really like to be there. It doesn't like to be there because the moon wants calm and peace and easy, especially when referring to our emotions, but Scorpio can be rather intense. Not only can it be challenging because of that, but also challenging too because moon's making a conjunction with Mars, which is not really that good friends with, and a square hard aspect to Pluto. So there are some challenging things here, but even though there are some challenging things that I'm about to explain, I think it's going to be for our highest good, and I think they're going to ease up as the day goes on, because as the end of the day, where it's going to make a sextile to that Venus, which is a nicer alignment. So what is this? What is the frustration? Well, the moon conjunct Mars and Pluto is going to bring a confrontation of sorts. Sure, maybe this can manifest as an argument with someone else, but it's really an inner confrontation. It's really an inner thing that's going on, that the big challenge is. And so the moon is going to bring the focus to that. And it's to that stuckness around acting, to wanting to act, but not acting, but not following through, the fear, the staying in the head. It's going to bring extra attention and focus and frustration and intensity to why am I not acting? Why am I not following through? What is in my way? What's stopping me? And to trying to remove those. Okay? But even though that can be hard, I think by us facing it, because that's what Scorpio does best, it faces things head on. It doesn't detach like Aquarius wants us to. It faces things head on, from facing the fear head on, from facing the frustration or the anger and working through that and trying to understand that and get to the bottom of that is then going to help us later in the day. And it's going to help us later in the day do what? Act on those desires, act on our motivations instead of waiting, hesitating, and holding back to get where we need to go. So that's the third point, which I tied up the advice in there, and that is, yes, a lot of intense frustration today around us not acting on some unexpected ideas to take control of our lives and hesitating and holding back. But that intense frustration, especially if we face it head on and work through it and process it, really helping us to overcome the fear, overcome the hesitation, and start to take action little by little to handle these unexpected events as we move forward. Okay. And I should note, I think that is going to happen naturally today, just naturally and instinctually. But if it does not happen naturally and instinctually, then maybe that's the advice. The advice is to face any fear, any stagnation, any stuck energy head on, to really confront it and get to the bottom of what are you afraid of? Why are you stuck? And to go deep into that uncomfortable emotion, because that is going to be the thing that's going to help you take the action once that's resolved, right? That needs to be resolved first, and then everything's going to be a little bit easier after that. Hey, so that's it, because that's it. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm now just going to repeat that one last time without the jargon. So we do that. What I think is going on today is, number one, we're trying to calm down a little bit around our lives and not be so stressed. And that is leading us to get some sudden, unexpected ideas, thoughts, news, conversations out of the blue that may be a little bit overwhelming. Not only are we getting unexpected ideas, thoughts out of the blue, but I think a part of us really wants to take control of these unexpected events and desires to act on them, to maneuver them to our benefit, to be different and better for us. But even though a part of us wants to act on these ideas, there's another part of us that is still doesn't want to act at cross purposes and is maybe hesitating or scared or worried about what's going to happen and what other people are going to think, or thinks we need more time to think things through. That is making us feel stuck and frustrated today. And that is being exacerbated big time. Very intense stuckness, very intense frustration today, maybe even very intense anger around the stuckness and the frustration. That can be a challenge. But even though that's a challenge, I think that we naturally are going to face that frustration head on, to really figure out, why are we afraid? What are we afraid of? What's stopping us? And that then is going to help us at the end of the day resolve the stuckness and then start to move better, take action on these things in a much better way that it is that we need. And I think that's going to happen more naturally and instinctually. But if it doesn't happen naturally and instinctually for you today, then that's the advice. Face any roadblock in your situation head on, to confront it within yourself or whatever, because that's going to give you insights that you need to help you get unstuck and follow through on some actions you need to improve your life for the better. So that's your daily planetary forecast for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow.